Hello and welcome to the RPG Talk Show. I'm your host, Hawk Robinson, and in a little bit, co-host John Welker will be joining soon. He's gotten stuck in traffic and weather, but he'll be here shortly. He's just a few blocks away. This show discusses weekly news, information, commentary, discussion, and debate about the effects of all role-playing game formats and their potential uses for professional, educational, recreational, and therapeutic goals. The RPG Talk Show is not about the latest modules and releases. There are plenty of sources for that information. We will mention such releases when related to the aforementioned topics, however. You can learn more about the RPG Talk Show, hosts, guests, and archives of previous episodes on our website at www.rpgtalkshow.com. You can follow us on Twitter at RPG Talk Show. You can catch our show live on twitch.tv/RPG Research, now on Thursdays 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and chat with us during the live broadcast. RPG Research Patreon supporters can access the recorded episodes a month or more before they are available to the general public as a thank you for your support. Role-playing game formats that we cover include the original Tabletop RPG, referred to usually as just RPG or tRPG. We don't use the two T's, we go with one T, and four-letter acronyms, not five. Just so you know. Live action roleplay, aka LARP. Electronic, aka eRPG, of which CRPGs, computer role-playing games, are a subset. And solo adventure books or modules, aka SABMs. And hybrid RPGs, HRPGs. This episode is sponsored by the wonderful Patreon supporters for the non-profit RPG Research. We are also sponsored by RPG Therapeutics, LLC. You can learn more about RPG Research, the non-profit 501c3 research and human services organization studying the effects of all RPG formats and their potential to improve lives at rpgresearch.com, and about RPG Therapeutics, LLC for the for-profit professional services company at rpgtherapeutics.com. Our show varies each week, but a typical format usually includes the latest general RPG news related to our focus on role-playing games and research, community response and discussion, RPG-related theory and application discussions, the latest updates on RPG Research, the RPG Bus, the RPG Trailer, the RPG Tour, RPG Education, RPG Publishers. You get the idea. For later today, so from 4 to 5 p.m. is the RPG Talk Show, and then a few hours shortly after that, from 6 to 9 p.m., we have our either applied gaming or RPG theory discussion. It alternates each week on Thursdays and then on Mondays. And this Thursday is an RPG theory discussion, and we're going to be doing a deep dive into flow state, and that's kind of a pun because of how flow state's related to deep focus and such. But anyway, as well as assessment tools related to that topic. So you may have already caught the 10-minute video I've done. If you haven't already, go ahead and go to YouTube and just type in flow state space role-playing games or flow state space RPG, and you should be able to find the video there at the top of the list. It's about a 10-minute summary of flow state, aka being in the zone. This is a key aspect of role-playing games, because how many of you who've been in role-playing games have experienced loss of time, where you look up, you thought it was half an hour, and an hour and a half went by. Extreme focus and immersion where other stimuli is not bothering you, where when it's just the right level of challenge and everything, you're really feeling like you're learning in a maximal way. Well, that's what flow state's about, which was proposed by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi and a few others, but Mihai Csikszentmihalyi is really at the forefront of that. So we won't be going deep into that in the talk show today. I'm just giving you a heads up that if you want to tune in a little later, we're going to be going very deep. We're going to be going through the entire section. His latest, I think it was his 2002 article or paper on the subject. He started bringing it up in the 1960s and 70s, and I think he first published about it in the 70s. And then I have the complete works, a 2-volume set of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And we're going to go through that entire chapter, hopefully in one session, discuss it. We're not going to read it straight through because that would be copyright infringement. However, we can stop and discuss it. That's fair use. So we'll be discussing it in depth. So if you get a chance, go check out the video, get a quick high level, and then come back. Don't leave right now, but during the break, we'll stop at 5, and then we'll resume again at 6. You can check out the video, then come back and we'll do a deep dive into this. And then we'll also talk about the different assessment tools out there. There's a lot of different ones in different fields that recognize flow state and immersion as something of value. But probably the Bible for assessment tools, certainly in recreation therapy and related fields, is the Red Book. And that would be the Assessment Tools for Recreational Therapy and Related Fields. And this is the 4th edition. This is chock full of assessment tools. With all the examples, it gives you copies that you have to, sample, do not copy. You have to go buy the actual legitimate ones. But it also tells you the validity and reliability, if any. They've done an analysis of each of these tools to see how valid and reliable they are, so that you can make some informed decisions about which assessment tools to use. Even if you're just a game master, you don't have to be a therapist or an educator, etc. If you're just a game master who wants to figure out how to improve your game and get good feedback from your participants about how much they were into the game, there's some useful tools in there that you might want to check out. So, welcome, John.
Hello.
Sorry about traffic and weather giving you grief there.
Yeah, and plus an appointment that was inappropriately scheduled.
Oh. Well,
it only gave me half an hour to travel from Valley to here.
Did it work out? You don't know yet? We'll see.
Well, it's going to be an ongoing thing.
Oh.
It was a therapy.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking it might have been a meeting, yeah. So, how are you doing? You hanging in there okay?
Yeah, I'm got some good, possible good news from the therapy session.
Okay.
The fact that
we are on the air, so don't get too deep.
Well, this isn't deep at all.
Okay, good.
That I burned through my Montgomery GI Bill when I got my bachelor's of business management.
Yeah.
But I also was on active duty for a year and a half after the 9/11, which means I may be eligible for the 9/11 GI Bill and have another 12 months of college left.
Oh. You thinking maybe the TR stuff?
Yeah,
okay.
CRS.
Yeah.
Plus, if I finally get a disability rating, I can possibly get vocational rehab to help cover costs.
All right.
So,
all right. Well, hopefully that works out, because I'd love for you to get through that formal program.
Yeah. And right now, with my wife getting a full-time job, paying more than I was.
You'll have that flexibility.
I may have the flexibility to be able to.
Fingers crossed for you. Hope that goes well.
Fingers, eyes, toes, nose, legs.
DNA. All right. Well, I was just giving people a little bit of a heads up about how this evening we're going to be doing a deep dive, because it's an RPG theory session from 6 to 9. We're going deep into discussion of flow state. We're going to go through the whole 2002 paper, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and discuss it in depth. And then we'll also talk about assessment tools and such if we have time. So that's going to be a deep dive. Shane's not going to be able to make it for this session. He had something come up, so he asked that we hold off on our discussion about... Dean, yes. Okay. Not Daniels, yeah. That we hold off on our discussion about parenting and roughhousing and violence in games and things like that. We hold off till he's able to attend, because he really wants to discuss that at length. So we'll probably do that Monday, which is another RPG theory day. So there's that. I'll let you get caught up. In the little news section, I posted a few suggestions. I'm awaiting yours, but I saw you had posted...
I had one.
Yeah, which was it the Aspiring Halfling or the Choose Your Own Adventure lawsuit for Netflix and NBC News? It
was the Choose Your Own Adventure.
Okay.
I think we talked about the Aspiring Halfling last week.
I think we did, yeah.
Psychology, neuroscience.
Yeah, we did.
Talking about young age, yes, the children as young as 5, getting them into role-playing games.
Right, yeah, we did, okay.
Yeah,
so the only one you had posted in there so far was Netflix sued by Choose Your Own Adventure book publisher over Black Mirror Bandersnatch. This is exactly why we use a descriptive term rather than a trademarked term.
Exactly.
We use Solo Adventure Book or Module, SABM. We do not use CYOA or Choose Your Own Adventure unless we were referencing the specific product, Choose Your Own Adventure. So if any of you have checked this out on Netflix, it's been up there for a little while. I wonder if it's going to get taken down. Black Mirror Bandersnatch is on Netflix, and it is basically a choose-your-own-adventure movie. You get to make a few choices, and the integration is pretty smooth. I started going through it.
Incredibly smooth.
Yeah, you went all the way through it, right?
No, I actually
you didn't either.
had...
Okay.
I ran out of time one day.
Yeah, me too.
But I got past the most troubling part,
okay,
that most people complain about, which is the suicide.
Okay, yeah, I haven't gotten that far yet. I think I got like 15 minutes into it before something came up. Between phone ringing and people at the door and everything.
One of your choices will lead to a character committing suicide.
Okay, and do you know this, or it's an unintended consequence? Like, do you say, do you do this or this? You're going to let him die, or are you going to try to save him? Is it that kind of choice, or is it the choice you made wasn't really clear? Spoilers, yes. Spoilers.
Spoilers. You and the main character, the character you're controlling, and his mentor, so to speak, he's come up with a writer's block, and his mentor is going to help him get through his writer's block with LSD. And then the mentored person goes to this rave that, basically saying that our real lives is nothing but a simulation.
Okay.
And that our choices don't matter.
Okay. So the whole Animatrix scene, do you remember when Animatrix came out between Matrix 1 and 2?
Yep.
And there was a huge uproar about, maybe not an uprising, but an uproar about one of the videos where it was a high school kid skateboarding through the hallways and everything, who eventually leaps off the building saying, "I believe in you, Neo," and that they're saying that's, encouraging people to commit suicide because they're saying there's no reality, it's nihilism, etc. There's all the philosophical stuff about the Matrix that is very powerful about the Matrix, and people thought that representation of suicide was going to encourage kids to commit suicide.
And it's something very similar to that. Mm-hmm. The character that does commit suicide basically saying that it doesn't matter his decision. In fact, to prove it, one of us is going to commit suicide. We're going to jump off this building, and then it's just going to reset the timeline.
Okay.
You're going to have a separate timeline, and things are going to be fine.
Right.
So he is told to choose which one jumps.
Right. Now, the lawsuit says the use of choose your own adventure in association with such graphic content is likely to cause significant damage, end quote. ChooseCo's publisher said. That's the company that owns the trademarks and copyrights.
Suicide, drug use.
The publisher of the classic Choose Your Own Adventure books is suing Netflix, claiming the streaming service infringed on its trademark format for the new film Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Now, that ChooseCo, which was formed in 2004 to re-release several classic titles of Choose Your Own Adventure books originally published in the 80s and 90s, announced the suit on Friday. Quote, "We have received an unprecedented amount of outreach from people who believed we were associated with the creation of this film, including parents who were concerned that we had aligned the CYOA brand they knew and loved with content that surprised and offended them." Shannon Gilligan, co-founder and publisher of ChooseCo. By the way, this is all over the talk shows as well.
Yeah.
Weeks ago it was already, as soon as it came out, the late night talk shows were covering it, and it's just been spreading since then. Netflix did not immediately respond to a request for comment made by NBC News. This is from NBC News. Released in late December, Netflix Bandersnatch follows game programmer Stephen Butler as he attempts to deliver a video game of the same name in time for Christmas 1984. As the viewer makes choices for Stephen, the character devolves into a deep depression and increasing paranoia. The film includes themes of drug use, murder, violence, and, spoiler alert, in one scenario, the death of a child. A number of different endings are possible, depending on the choices made by the viewer during the film. A copy of the suit, first published by BuzzFeed News and filed in Vermont federal court, claims that in 2016, Netflix and ChooseCo began licensing negotiations in relation to Choose Your Own Adventure television shows and movies, but that Netflix never received a licensing agreement from the publisher. Ooh, if that's true, Netflix is in trouble. ChooseCo, if they stole the idea and then didn't do anything, let him do it their own, that's, yeah. And Netflix has done that a lot, a lot of movie companies have done that, unfortunately. ChooseCo also sent Netflix a cease and desist letter prior to the release of Bandersnatch, according to the suit. Gilligan sent a statement that Netflix's misappropriation of the company's trademark has been a serious problem for the independent publisher. The use of Choose Your Own Adventure in association with such graphic content is likely to cause significant damage, impacting our book sales and affecting our ability to work with licensing partners in the future, Gilligan said. That may be true. We would prefer not to resort to litigation, but given the damage that we would suffer as a result of the use of our mark, we've been left with no other option. The suit accuses Netflix of trademark infringement, trademark dilution, unfair competition, and false designation of origin. ChooseCo is seeking $25 million in damages from the streaming service, according to the suit. So, do they actually call it a Choose Your Own Adventure in the movie? I don't remember. I'll have to go back and watch it now.
When he describes Bandersnatch,
yeah,
he says it's a Choose Your Own Adventure.
Okay, yeah, if they use that term, they're...
And I can't say for 100% sure, but I thought...
I'm going to go back and watch it. It hasn't been clawed.
...was advertised as a Choose Your Own Adventure.
Okay, we'll have to check that out.
I don't know.
But this is why this is why words matter. I've gotten grief for trying to make up new terms, but this is why. Everybody uses Choose Your Own Adventure to lump in all of these Choose Your Own Adventure-like games, but that is a product. It's like Xerox versus Minivac. Yeah, Kleenex Band-Aid, versus tissue. Exactly. So, SABM folks use the term SABM. If they had said a solo adventure or a guided adventure or something like that, they at least wouldn't be in violation of the trademark. Now, if ChooseCo had done any patents for branching type stories and it had extended beyond books into movies or films, then that would be a patent infringement. But it looks like they're only focusing on trademark, and all they had to do is not use the terminology. However, that being said, if they did have a meeting and they stole intellectual property, which they list, then that's, boy, that could be...
Yeah. I'm not sure, but my understanding is you cannot trademark or patent a system.
Right, no, you can patent a system. Totally. You can patent any... So, for example, Amazon's one-click. They patented the process of only clicking once to finish your shopping. And Barnes & Noble and everybody else, I was in the .com industry when this all happened, we all had to add an extra step to the shopping experience. And everybody except Amazon, unless you go through licensing and such, until that patent expires, whenever it expires, has to add an extra click. Or had to. I don't know if that's expired since then. It's been enough years now. But back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they won the patent. And everybody had to add a click or get sued.
Game rules were concerned. Like, you could not...
You can't...
The process of rolling dice to create randomization cannot be trademarked. Now,
so you're getting... So there's three things. This is where people get confused.
Yeah.
Trademark, copyright, patent. And there's design patents and utility patents. So there's really four things.
Right.
And people get confused with these all the time. And the only reason, I'm not a lawyer, but I worked in tech for a lot of years. I was chief technology officer and information officer for a number of companies.
Do not cite us in a court case.
Yeah.
Don't help you at all.
I worked for a number of Fortune 500 companies, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to learn these things just to CYA, cover my rear. And, well, let's get you in the other, sorry. Where's my mouse? Mousey, come back to me, Mousey. All right, let me get you in the right frame of mind here.
Hi!
All right. Okay. Oh, it's a little tilted.
I'm a good person.
Heck, yes. Listing. Why is it? Doesn't look like this.
I haven't been drinking, honest.
You know, do the song of the Barbary Coast.
Yeah.
That was funny in Shogun when they did that. All right. Okay. Man, things just keep moving. It's a dynamic world. So anyway, copyright is about, specific words, text, art, and that specific representation.
Right.
So, you can do your artwork, you can do the text from your book, things like that. Trademark is what represents your company. You can have also service marks. So if you're a service company rather than a product company, you have a service mark, same thing as a trademark, basically.
Okay.
And so that's where it's trying to create differentiation between a service or product provider. So if I had a company called Coca-Cola, and, they've got Coca-Cola here, but I start a little local company called Coca-Cola, people are going to think that I'm part of the bigger company, and that creates brand dilution and confusion, right. And I'm riding on the coats of somebody else's recognition.
Therapeutics would be a service mark?
Yeah, because yes, but RPG Publishers DBA would potentially be a trademark because that's a publishing company. Yeah, but RPG Therapeutics, well, it's a trademark because it's multiple services. Right. So if you're doing trade in any way, a service mark is very narrow. It's usually a trademark, but service mark is just a subset. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not perfect on this, but this is my understanding of it to help clarify a little bit for folks. And if I'm wrong, please tell me, correct me. It's been a little while since I had to go through all this, and the laws do keep changing a little bit. So you have copyright, trademark, service mark. Then you have the two different patents, the design patent and utility patent. And this is where I have to refresh my memory a little bit. I believe the design patent is like how it's designed. So if I make a really well-designed watch or something, it's the design of it, right? Or a tablet design or something like that, or a certain feature. That design is my patent. So anything else that looks like that design. So Apple has very specific design patents on the look and feel of their product. The utility patent is how it operates. So if I have a patent on a steam engine, I detail how that steam engine operates. And anybody who wants to use that similar operation has to pay for my utility patent. So maybe I've come up with a more efficient steam engine using this particular design. It's very specific. You have to give blueprints and everything and explain it. It's very detailed. And that design patent limits, says you can't use this way of doing things without permission. We're going to see if they've got anything.
So to clarify, the way this book looks with the color codes, the color scheme, etc., that's the design patent. This looks
no, that's not a patent.
That's not a patent.
No. If they come up with a new way for books to
function,
to be laid out and such, that would be a design patent.
Okay.
So like a whole new binding combination, whatever, that would be a design patent. This just uses a standard book bind, so it wouldn't be a design patent. All of this picture here is copyright. This is a copyrighted photo, copyrighted cover. You take a copy of this and put it around and pretend that it's yours, you're a copyright violation. Their logo, they got the little dragon logo thing there, whatever it is. And so Chooseco with the dragon. And their terms, they have different phrases like choose your own adventure. So that phrase. So like Pepsi had choice of a new generation. That became a trademark.
Right.
It was Pepsi and then they trademarked the certain phrase. So they have Choose Your Own Adventure as their trademark name because that's their product.
Okay.
Xerox was a company. People say mimeograph to say I Xeroxed it, but that's completely inaccurate and using a trademark name to talk about a
So design patent is beyond what it looks like.
It has to be, the whole key thing to all of this is there can't be prior art. That's the key differentiator. If there's prior art, so if somebody creates a new book binding, but it turns out somebody already created it a long time ago, it's hard to get a patent for it. Not impossible. You can end up getting a patent, and the poor person who didn't patent can be out of luck. You can go back to them. If you get the patent, you can theoretically go back and make them pay licensing for what they didn't patent, even though they created it first. That's not unprecedented, sadly.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Very sad.
You can do that to somebody.
So, and that's the scary thing, because I've invented stuff left and right, and usually I've done it and given it to other companies to let them deal with the patents and such, but my name's not associated with any of them. And then we're creating all these things, and I worry that somebody with a little more money might hurry and patent or something and then come back and make us have to pay a licensing fee because I didn't have the time or money and lawyers to go patent all these distinctive ideas. But, you do what you can. There has to be usually a big enough demand and somebody with enough money to bother. But there are organizations that just go out and just scoop these things up left and right. Anyway, so it's the Choose Your Own Adventure. The confusing, if it says anything that says Choose Your Own Adventure, then everybody thinks of these books, this product, this company, and that's brand and product dilution. That's bad.
Right.
If they actually had a meeting and handed over, all these ideas, and then Netflix didn't engage them in a contract and then went ahead and used all that content, wow, they get in a lot of trouble for that. And as they called it, what was the term they used for that specific? There was a specific name, and I'm drawing a blank on it now. Yeah, but anyway, but they also did misappropriation.
Negotiations,
right? But so this happened with a lot of organizations where you meet with a big company. In fact, it's happened to me. You meet with a big company. You're really excited, so you show them everything, hoping that they'll engage in a contract, and then they back out. And then
they take all your ideas
a year or 3 later, all of a sudden, all your stuff shows up, and you don't have the lawyer muscle to take them on. J. Michael Straczynski, Babylon 5, and Deep Space Nine. So for 8 years, JMS was going around. He had the cards of the details for Babylon 5. He worked on it for years. And he took these cards and he showed them to production company and broadcast company after company after company. And really tough time selling the idea of a longitudinal arc. Back then, everything was serial. You want it one and done, or in just a couple of episodes. The broadcasters assumed nobody had the attention span for a long arc. Obviously, that's changed, but back then, this was a radical idea. And eventually, and at one point, he met with Paramount. And the scuttlebutt is that that's how Deep Space Nine got launched. They took directly from his stuff that first year especially. Again, they did their own Star Trek twist. They did their own version of it.
Right, your own.
But that's why you saw Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 come out so close together, was the argument is that they stole his idea. They didn't, I'm a big Babylon 5 fan. I like a lot of Star Trek stuff, but I think Babylon 5 was way better than Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine got better over time, but it wasn't even close, I thought, to Babylon 5. That's my opinion, for what that's worth. Lots of Trekkies are going to vehemently disagree with me. Yeah. I had it happen with a very large telco company. I was working on a patent for some services I did.
It's telecommunications.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Terminology. That was the thing we did at PAX there. So I was working in the tech industry at a number of businesses. I had a technology that I had under the brand name of Virtual Office and Workplace, VOW. It was to make it so that wherever you were in the world, you could work together as though you were in the same office. Now this is old school. Now people do it all the time, but back then this was, in the 90s, it was still pretty far ahead. And we had a very specific way of doing it that took the load off, and you could just ship a box to your place, plug it in, and we would take care of all the access management. It solved a problem that every company I worked for, I kept having to set up the infrastructure, so I became a service provider, provided just like if you order cable to your house or cell phone service and you get a phone, you would contact us saying, we want to network with our partners. We would ship boxes or whatever was necessary, or use software, and link them all together for you, and it'd be just like you're all in the same high-rise together, even though you're scattered all around the world. So, and you could do it by per project, per group, per division, whatever. It was very granular control. And I won't go to the tech of how that works, but it worked beautifully.
Right.
So we were in negotiations with several different large telcos who really had a lot of clients who wanted this service, right? This is what I kept asking for all the time. Can't you just do this for me? I don't have to keep building up infrastructure to connect all my partners for us to work on these projects and make it come and go. And so now I provided these services, and I had about half a dozen contractors under me to help deliver it. And so I was in contract negotiations with multiple large telcos, and one of them, I was getting pretty close to signing off, and the sales rep friend of mine who had kind of connected me discreetly had lunch with me and warned me to back out, because he said their plan was they were trying to scoop up all the IP, the intellectual property, of how I did it. They were trying to learn how I did it. I was being a little cagey about how I did it. I just kept explaining, here's the features of what you'll get, and they want to know how. How are you doing this? Like, well, that's our secret sauce. That's what we do. I've been doing this.
That's what I get paid for.
I've been doing this technology for a lot of years with Virtual Office, but I was being cagey. And I go, we need to know. Like, well, let's get a little further in negotiations. We'll have security audits and all that. But he warned me that they were just, as soon as the moment I handed over how I was doing it, they were going to back out of the contract and then just implement it themselves.
Right.
Which is why I was being cagey. So I backed out. Preemptively from that, and ended up going with a much larger telco anyway, who didn't do that. Although I had to go through paperwork that tall. So much paperwork. But it was a very large telco company that tried to totally scam me. And so unfortunately, this is common practice. A big company, small person, small organization, small individuals, whatever, they try to take advantage. They try to suck all the ideas, and then they back out, and then you don't have the legal power to take them on. Okay. Chusco is not a big company. This is pretty significant that such a small company is taking on Netflix.
So that would be a design patent on that part?
Well, so if they had patented this branching storyline thing
right,
that they show on the back, if they could patent that, and I don't know if they did or could. I haven't seen anything that shows there was ever a patent for it. I don't know that they could. But if they patented that, that's one area. But they're not talking about a patent infringement. They're talking about trademark dilution, unfair competition, and false designation of origin. because they didn't get a license to call it Choose Your Own Adventure. So if they use the term Choose Your Own Adventure, that's dilution of the brand because it wasn't ChooseCo's product. They didn't have a license for it. It makes the product, in their view, look bad because of all the negative stuff that's becoming associated with it. And I've heard it on the radio talk shows. They're now saying that these books are the same as the show, and that's why, and they're linking it to role-playing games. So Here we go again. And this is stupid stuff like this. As these things get popular, then ignorance, prevails. An unfair competition.
Choose Your Own Adventure movies.
IBM did?
As of September 15, 2010, there was an article that the title was IBM Patents Choose Your Own Adventure Movies.
Now, did they apply or did they get the patent? IBM applies for patents all the time. That doesn't mean they get them. Well, IBM has a huge think tank of patents. All these companies do. That's interesting. So it could be they switched over to IBM for that if they did get the patent. And then that means that they definitely can't do anything about the patent. And they may have been using IBM's movie technology patent, but they use the Choose Your Own Adventure product. So that's the brand, and that's where they're being sued. If they had not used the term Choose Your Own Adventure or anything to do with ChooseCo, then ChooseCo might have no standing. But if they did use those terms, then that creates dilution.
USPTO
Yep.
granted IBM US patent number 7,000.
All right. You don't need to read the number. Yeah, that's huge.
Selecting divergent storylines using branching techniques.
Okay.
Fancy lawyer speak for Choose Your Own Adventure movies.
Okay.
So they
did for the design of how to do that in a movie.
Right.
Now, is it a design patent or utility patent?
It does not say.
Okay, so if it's a design patent, that means any branching movie technology could fall under it. Design patents, if I remember correctly, are broader than utility patents. So like one-click. With Amazon, I think it was a design patent. All they had to say was, you can make a purchase with a single click, and you're done. That's a design patent. It doesn't say how the technology underlying that made it all happen in one click. The utility patent would describe a specific way of making one click happen. That would be a utility patent. And again, this is, if I remember correctly, I'm a little rusty on this, but so same thing with this. If it's a design patent, that means everybody who tries to make a Choose Your Own Adventure movie will have to pay licensing for that technology because they've got the design of any branching movie. However, if they picked a specific technology that does a better version of a branching movie, then that would be a utility patent, and then you only have to pay it if you use their approach for branching movies. But if you come up with your own approach, it might not be as good, it might be better, then you won't have that problem. So it depends if it's design or utility.
A method for selecting a logical branch in a storyline among the plurality of available storyline branches on a computing device based on voters' votes, compromising obtaining and then accumulating the votes from the voters on a computing device.
So far it sounds like design. It doesn't sound like utility, it sounds like design.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get the idea. So we'll see how this unfolds. If Netflix tried to shaft them, I hope the court throws the book at them. If Netflix tried to take advantage of a small company like that.
Or several. The books are small, so.
Yeah. Good point. I hope they really throw the book at Netflix for trying to screw them over like that. If it's not true, then it could be the end of ChooseCo because these the big
countersuits
here. Not only the countersuits, the way they can drag these out for years before resolution. You have to keep filing, paying fees. That's what put Iron Crown Enterprises out of business, which made Middle-earth Role Playing and Rollmaster. Mm-hmm. They got into a tussle with Tolkien Enterprises, not Estate, but Enterprises, which later became Middle-earth Enterprises, a Saul Zaentz company, who own the rights for games and movies and such based on The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Nothing else, just The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And they wanted to free up the license for the Peter Jackson movies coming. And Iron Crown Enterprises had the license for like 18 years, making MERP.
Right.
And getting better and better and better with it. And they wanted to free it up, and they still had a few more years to go before it had to be renewed. So there were accusations of infringement, and there were problems. So they forced Iron Crown Enterprises to stop selling all MERP-related products, cease and desist, forced them to insure and store in an expensive insured facility all of the product, so they couldn't destroy it or anything else. They had to pay. So now they're incurring all these costs. Iron Crown Enterprises was not a big company. and basically the legal fees and everything. And the funny thing is, Iron Crown Enterprises did have a few people who started out as lawyers, I believe, if I remember correctly. That's kind of why the books are kind of the ultimate rules lawyer game system with Rollmaster. But, and all the charts and graphs and everything. I think you had accountants, lawyers, and things like that. I mean, D&D, Gary Gygax was an underwriter for insurance.
Right.
So that's why everything's in the tables, just like underwriter tables and such in D&D.
Dungeons & Dragons without tables is not a game.
But I'm pumped. So, anyway, and eventually they bled so much money, Iron Crown Enterprises had to go bankrupt. And then Tolkien Enterprises then was able to relicense to Decipher. Decipher had no interest in the role-playing game, but bought it as a bundle. They were more interested in the board and card games and such that they rolled out. And they did a half-hearted rollout of the role-playing game. There were a few gems in it, but overall it was a mess. And it wasn't the people on the team. People on the team were working hard, but they didn't have the backing of the company.
Right.
And they didn't have the staff, and there were a lot of things. Chris Seaman, Professor Chris Seaman, who had been part of MERP, part of other Hands magazine, he's been a speaker on our convention and such, was involved. And one of the best products that Decipher put out for the Lord of the Rings role-playing game was the Moria box set. That one got rave reviews compared to a lot of the other
the Moria
Decipher
box
products.
set is about to make a resurgence under Tor.
Well, they're going to do Moria. Is it a box set?
It is a box set.
Really?
In fact, there are actual comments people says, I hope it's not a Beetle of Bards box set because we can't afford $500.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know about that. Okay. I wonder who's involved with that one. And Cubicle 7's been doing a good job. So, anyway, we just spent an awful lot just on that, but it is a big deal.
Yeah,
it is a big deal, and it has ramifications throughout the industry. Well, we've got more news, but that was the biggest one, definitely. And okay, so how does that tie in with everything? Well, it affects us. Like I've gone out of my way over the years to get permission from companies to let us do our charity work. And they're like, oh, if you're not charging anything, we don't care. Well, I need it in writing. Well, what do you do exactly? When sometimes we raise money, sometimes I do make money, whatever. Please give me permission, or if there's licensing, we need to work that out. And the biggest win was Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons.
Right. They set the precedent.
And we went around to other companies. One company we decided not to go with, I think, is Green Ronin, because their license was extremely over the top. And so we have them as a do not recommend for if you're trying to do your services or products. We have a list on the rpgresearch.com website listing the different partners and such.
Good product just wasn't a good company to work with.
Right. Yeah. Just the license. They were fine to work with. In fact, they were more responsive than some of the others. But their license was too exorbitant. It was too expensive to be worthwhile. Like, there's so many other products out there competing. We can live without their product and still deliver all the services we want to deliver. They were not willing to negotiate, and everybody else has. It's really interesting. They're the only company that had a really overreaching license. It's very interesting. And they're not that big a company, right? Compared to a lot of these others. I haven't tried Fantasy Flight games. I haven't tried asking them when you do that at some point. They might be difficult too, because they're big on their licensing too. So we'll see. And the big problem is if you start to get into big IPs, intellectual properties like Star Wars and such, that can be really problematic. So that's something I got to look into.
Right, because Star Wars is a good system to work
with. And now with Disney, it just makes things that much nastier. Yeah.
Disney has gone after
everybody.
Cares.
They have lawyers. They have bored lawyers just looking for opportunities to jump on people. So these are things that affect you as an RPG professional. Whether you're doing it for entertainment, whether you're doing it as a paid recreation RPG professional, where people are paying you to run a game, whether you're doing it for entertainment, where you're streaming and you're getting money for that, whether you're doing it for educational settings, whether you're doing it for therapeutic settings, these issues affect you. They impact you, and you should pay attention to these things. Pay attention to what's happening with ChooseCo and Netflix here. Yeah. These do set precedent. One of the big things RPG Research is doing in 2019 is trying to get role-playing games back into prisons. And as I've just started to scratch the surface on that, there's a big ruling in 2010 out of Michigan against a singer. So he was trying to do I think it was First Amendment rule about the right to have books and read books and do role-playing games and such.
Right, which kind of confuses me because that would protect your right to publish your book, not the right to have it.
Whatever the reason. It was his lawyers who were doing all that.
Was going on First Amendment.
But it was legal stuff. But what happened is it backfired. The ruling, which got upheld by a superior court, said that any facility administrator does not have a burden of proof of prior harm. They just have a burden of proof of reasonable possibility of risk to ban any particular product or activity.
Right. It was being cited as a possible security risk.
Right. They're saying it could be used for gang planning and things like that. They listed a whole bunch of things.
And also not just gang planning, but affiliation.
Right.
That you could create a gang.
They came with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So they were asked over and over by the Singer group, well, can you give us one example of where that's happened? And they couldn't. There's no example of Dungeons & Dragons and role-playing games causing all these things that the prisons say it'll cause. They could not find a single example.
Because of a natural one.
And and it could happen. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Prisoners do these kinds of things. It's not because of the game. It's just that they do those kinds of things. That's why they're in prison. But they could not cite one example. But the court ruling, their lawyer argued, it's not necessary in the interest of security. We are trying to hit it off at the pass before it ever happens. And the court upheld that, and the Superior Court upheld that. So I've been going through and I've been creating a library on the RPG research site on RPGs, bans, and I'm now finding a dozen or more other cases that are either role-playing game related or not even role-playing game related, where they cite the Singer case as why they're banning a service or product in that prison because they have authority to do so without any burden of proof. They only have to have a reasonably logical argument. They don't have any burden of proof, the administrators.
So,
yeah,
I mean, this is an
bad.
extreme example I'm going to give, and hopefully a ridiculous one. But the idea is that I can sit there and say, there are such things as Muslim terrorists, therefore we're going to ban Muslim practices in prison because you become a terrorist. I mean, that's supposed to be ridiculous.
Let's not go down that road. That's getting on religious rights, and oh my goodness, that could get, yeah.
I don't have to prove it.
There are lots of restrictions on those types of activities in prison.
Right.
So you're supposed to have freedom of religion, but again, you're a prisoner. And again, I'm more on the hardball side of
you are there to be
incarceration. You're there to be punished. But I also argue that from the practical perspective, that if you want to run a facility that's less disruptive, a smoother running facility, you're going to want programs that promote people getting along with each other in the limitations of a prison setting. If you don't do that, it's going to make your life as an administrator much more difficult. You're going to have more injuries. Your insurance is going to be higher. It's going to cost you more to operate. A lot of these prisons now are for profit, and it's going to hurt your bottom line. So I'll use that argument. Let's use an argument where they feel it.
Right.
So if you want a better running facility, you need to look at things that help. And that's why some prisons do. They do offer various programs to help their prisoners. So prisoners with good behavior, get time out and things like that. They get all these different rewards for good behavior. So this is just another area where that needs to be considered. And that is to help the bottom line. Forget about, if you have no empathy about the prisoners, which a lot of these facilities do not, and you're not interested in rehabilitation, that they're there to be punished, not rehabilitated. So it used to be prison. We've gone back and forth. We've gone from prisoners there to punish or keep them away from the population from being dangerous, to rehabilitation trends for a few decades there, to, I think in the 80s, we then flipped back the other way to its punishment, and we flipped back and forth a little bit.
Etc.
And that was 90s. That was Clinton's. Interestingly enough, they've gotten a lot of flack for that. So anyway, I don't want to get too political about it. We try to avoid that, but this is where it directly falls into role playing gaming and our efforts to try to bring role playing games back into prisons. We're going to have to overcome this pretty arbitrary argument of every administrator can just decide it's too much of a risk. However, there's some key phrases I noticed in the court documents. I'm still reading through them. Man, I'm juggling a lot right now. My head is just... There were some key things said in the testimony, and one of the key things that was done in the analysis, I think, through Harvard Law, is that Singer was not able to bring any witnesses from outside the prison system as far as professionals. we are outside the prison system. We may work with them, but we are not prisoners. We're not prison counselors. We're not guards, whatever. We're outside professionals, and we do research, and we pull from multiple. So my hope is that as outsiders, because that was the key thing they said, is they couldn't get anybody outside the prison system to vouch for the lack of risk for having a role-playing game in the system. From what I'm reading in the court documents so far, I'm still in the early phases of my research on this. I will be putting out some blog postings as I go deeper and deeper and sharing my thoughts as we work towards launching these programs. So that's one possibility. If you look into more deeply, that hey, if we're outside advisors, then we might have a better chance. We'll see. Now, there have been prisons that are allowing role-playing gaming. They're popping up here and there. We've got one in San Francisco, Elizabeth and such talking on that. There's one down in Texas people keep telling me about. Dr. B says he worked with a group that did a little bit over in the Seattle area somewhere. He hasn't been able to give me any of the hard numbers on it. I keep asking him to give me the contact info, and it hasn't followed through. And then there's some over on the East Coast in New Jersey and stuff. So it's starting to happen, right? There's a generational change, etc. But it isn't there yet, and I'm hoping 2019 is where we can push and really push to open this wide, get the floodgates going. We kind of each year kind of pick a topic. Muscular Dystrophy Association, the deaf community, whatever. This year I'm trying to really hammer on the incarcerated, the prison system and the bans there, and see how much leeway we can. And there's going to be a lot of pushback. It's going to be difficult. We won't get everything we want, but hopefully we can make inroads. And hopefully that will help others be inspired in their states and areas to do the same.
So, in short, though, the first argument you're going to hear from people is going to be they're prisoners.
They shouldn't have
fun. Why should we provide any recreation whatsoever?
Right.
So, what is the benefit to the prison and for the people at large to allow them to have any kind of recreation?
So there's a whole long list, and one thing I'll point out to one of our board members is Professor Emily Messina of Eastern Washington University. Her dissertation years ago, she's the head of the Recreation Therapy Department at EW. She came from Florida, but her dissertation, her doctoral dissertation, was on recreation in prisons. And she never expected to work with that population. She's a woman. She did not expect to be in the system. It was kind of scary. But and so her work was published on that. So what they found is if you do it the right way, use it as a reward system for good behavior, you will make life less difficult for the administrators of the prison. Forget the rehab. You can make great arguments for rehab. So on the rehab side, but it's kind of a losing argument depending upon the prison, right? The administrators, if they are not, so you need to find out if the prison uses the term rehabilitation or just incarceration or punishment. If they're just incarceration or punishment, they're not interested in the word rehabilitation. They don't believe in it. They believe most of the criminal system says, and I know this from personal experience long ago, once a crook, always a crook. They do not believe you can change.
Lever cannot change his spots.
And statistically, unfortunately, the way the system's set up, they're mostly right. The majority of people, once they get into the system, have a lot of trouble getting out of the system, especially past a certain threshold. A little infraction or something when you're a teenager is one thing, but once you get in deep enough, usually it ends up being a lifelong struggle for a lot of reasons. There's usually background stuff, and they don't care. They're not there. They're not therapists. They're not there to rehabilitate them. They're there to punish them and to keep them from being dangerous to others. Okay, that's where you have to focus your argument with those types of facilities. What's going to affect the bottom line? It's going to make it safer for your prisoners if your for your prison guards and your administrative staff, if your prisoners have an outlet that doesn't require them rioting and gang fight, because they are human beings.
Right.
And short of locking everybody up.
Opinions.
Yeah, well, it's short of locking up everybody in solitary confinement, which is too expensive. That's too cost prohibitive. Mm-hmm. They have to interact socially. They have to physically, and there's a lot of lawsuits have happened because of bad prison conditions. They can get sued, and that's very expensive. If they're not healthy enough, they're not getting enough nutrition. If it's not sanitary enough, if they're not getting the opportunities for sunlight and exercise. There's all these mandates they have to live up to keep the prisoners functioning and reasonably healthy. And you can see some of those prisoners get really healthy.
Well, there's cruel and unusual punishment laws.
Yeah, which is highly variable. I mean, look at Arizona and stuff in the camps and such. So it's going to vary from location to location, facility to facility, state to state, and federal versus state versus what have you. And we're going to learn the ins and outs of this year. This is what we're going to deep dive in, is the whole punitive system and trying to get role-playing games in some format. Some allow the books, many ban the books. Talking to Elizabeth and such, it's really hard just to get a book into the prison. We're finding out. I was like, wow, when did that happen? Because in the 80s and 90s wasn't a big deal. Yeah, I don't know enough yet. So we're going to be learning a lot, and we'll be sharing it with you. So that's a big thing coming up this year. And that's going to snowball into deeper. And this is how we do it. We'll pick a topic and go deeper, 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 deeper. We share it with everybody. First, our Patreon supporters, of course, although live. And then we wrap it up. We get to a certain point where we have a pretty comprehensive understanding. It will hopefully be a launching point for others to do programs and research. And then we move on to the next thing and try to build it up, an area that's been underserved. So
next year will be astronauts. Just kidding.
Only if they're out belters or something.
Yeah.
The Expanse. I'm still waiting for my copy of The Expanse. Remember the whole Kickstarter?
Did you get that yet?
No. Where the heck is it? Did you get yours?
I got mine a week ago.
I haven't gotten anything.
I think maybe because you're getting more stuff than
Maybe. I got my downloads, but I haven't gotten any physical product.
Yeah, I got the actual book and the map, the cloth map. The actual box and the cloth map. But you should have gotten more. I have one thing from Goblins Animated is supposed to be sending me their module and stuff, but it got rerouted because it was accidentally sent to my old address.
Huh. Well, I haven't moved since 2004, so it's not going to be. Yeah. No, thank you, Evil. Love everything.
Have you even received a letter?
I get email updates, and I got all the downloads, but I'm not seeing. There's no new messages.
That's them now.
That's Katie. Yeah, that would be funny. Okay, messages. Yeah, I'll have to send them a message. I'm like, I still haven't gotten anything. Let me see what their latest update is. Because there were a lot of us who supported this, and we should have gotten stuff by now. Killjoys and Jinxes. I know they had a lot of shipping issues and such.
Right.
Yeah, on December 11th, it was on American Shores. December 20th was their last update on the Kickstarter. They had their port issues. Look for your redemption email. I did all that.
So you went into the Moncook Games site, and
I downloaded all the PDFs.
No, did you order it on Moncook's site?
I went through the whole backer kit or whatever it was that they used, Monty Cook, whatever it was. Yeah, I went through all of that long ago. That's something I need to look into. What's going on there? I'm juggling so many things that I haven't had the time or energy to delve in, but we're way overdue.
Volunteer to be a personal assistant.
Oh, goodness gracious, that would be nice. Oh, that would be so nice. Okay, well, anyway, that's something to look into. So, again, later tonight, deep dive into flow state and assessment. Tomorrow is Friday, and what do we do most Fridays? What do we do on Fridays, Mr. Brain?
Every
Friday, trying to take over the world. No, it's Drop In an RPG Friday. Yay! Tomorrow.
At the library.
And this Friday will be at the North Spokane County Library on Hawthorne, just east of Division. Check out dropinandrpg.com, and you'll see our schedule for each Friday. The only Friday we don't do something is if there is a fifth Friday of the month, we get a day off. Other than that, every Friday we're at some location or other. So check that out. And we got to get out and scope some for next month. I put up an internal poll. I don't know if you saw that, because we've had a lot of requests for GMs who can't attend Fridays to do something on the weekend, because we have a lot of GMs who can do something on the weekend who can't do anything during the week.
So drop in on Saturdays instead?
Or Sunday, yeah, Saturday or Sunday. I would prefer Sunday early as opposed to Saturday, because my Saturdays are already packed. But,
Right.
But I put up a poll that includes a window in Saturday and then a few windows on Sunday to see who could participate in that. This is meant to target those who can't do the Fridays. So, you're always welcome, but you got so much on your plate. This you don't have to attend these, but you're welcome to if you wanted, or if it's easier. But we want to keep the Fridays going. But for those who can't do,
keep going to Fridays.
Exactly. But we've got a bunch of GMs who are training who cannot do Fridays. Period. Okay. And for the foreseeable future, we'll never be able to do Fridays. And they're training, and they can't get to the next stage of their training because they can't do it in these community programs. So I need to create a Saturday or Sunday that they can attend. So I put up a poll on our internal social network poll. You should see it there in your stream, hopefully coming from me, or just go to my stream. And, go and, if you're not going to do it, then don't vote. But make sure everybody else is aware of it as we have these new GMs. I need to get, at least 2 or 3 GMs I can count on to do that before I will. Because then we got to find a place and, blah, 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 blah. We'll make it happen, but I need to know who I can count on first. So that's going on. So that'll be a second community program per week. Of multiple tables, in addition to all the research stuff and training we do all week long. Volunteer number 49 was added. Was it yesterday or today? I can't even remember. Oh my goodness, I'm delirious.
Yeah, female. I'm trying to help you here.
It was day before yesterday. It was yesterday. Trent, we got Trent on board now.
Okay.
Shane's son, so he's officially on board now and being onboarded and going through the paperwork, and we'll probably hit the ground running pretty quickly with him as well.
Well, that email you received that you sent me
for the NPPI,
for the person that you were wondering why he's trying to log in.
Yeah.
I guess he would be number 50.
Okay. Well, he doesn't have to log in. He just needs to go click on volunteer and apply. There's no login required for application.
He said he had a login.
But he doesn't need a login to sign up on a volunteer.
I don't know why he said that.
He probably had a login on an older version of the site. That's what he says. It's probably an old version of the site or something. Yeah. Probably at www.2. He doesn't need to log in to fill out the volunteer application.
So those are. He is the one that does the kids D&D Adventures League at Uncle's on Saturdays.
Okay.
Specifically for the kids.
Okay.
And he's also going to be teaching how to be a Dungeon Master classes at Uncle's on Saturday afternoons.
Okay.
And he's like, wait, do I still have it? Oh, man, it's my other shirt. He gave me a card. He's got a professional Dungeon Master card already, business card.
Okay.
So I said, why aren't you working with us? Well, I applied.
He did? I didn't.
Well, he says he applied.
So. He could have, but I don't know.
The last time I brought you a name of somebody that had applied, you found out that they were...
they were lost in the system. Yeah, it happens because we're volunteers and get inundated, and I get overwhelmed, so... Again, PA would be nice. Or, we call it AA, administrative assistant, but as opposed to personal assistant. Personal assistant's a little bit loaded term. Administrative assistant's less loaded.
Yeah.
So.
Trying to avoid the politics.
It's less of a political issue than just, anyway. So, I'm trying to find the card. Okay, so, so we got all that going on. John, was there anything else you wanted to cover? Because we're wrapping up here.
Well, no, those were the topics I wanted to go over today.
Okay.
Was the lawsuit and the prison things.
Great. So we're pretty much on schedule here then. I got started right at 4 o'clock sharp, and so we're doing okay there. So remember, we're here every Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/RPG Research. That's when we're live. You can get access to the recorded stuff through patreon.com/RPG Research. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can get access upwards of a month or more before the general public. And then RPG talk shows where you can learn more about us, and eventually the archive show up there eventually. I did, quick little administrative note, I did finish the wipe the backup, wipe, and setup of a new server of www.2.rpgresearch.com. It is back up now. At least it was as of a few minutes ago.
And I was able to verify my access.
So see, it's back up, and it's on a much faster server.
Nice
setup. It's a newer OS that is more up to date. The other one was running pretty old. It's running 2 6-core Xeon processors. It's at 16 gigs of RAM. It'll upgrade over to 120. It's a full enterprise class 1U. Anyway, blah 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 blah. Techie talk. RAID array, etc. It's a zipping dedicated hardware system. It's not in a VMS, through GoDaddy or something like some of the other sites. This is beefy, not wimpy. It's hefty.
And secure.
Oh yeah, it's a lockdown. It's a much more secure OS and everything. So even though it's the same site, because we're still moving content over, it should be a lot zippier, faster, responsive, etc. If you have any issues, let me know, because sometimes when you do these moves, sometimes weird things happen with permissions on files and things like that, especially since it went to a more secure system. Right. Sometimes that can cause weird permissions issues. But that's over 3,800 content items on www.2.rpgresearch.com, compared to about 400 or 500 on the new site, www.rpgresearch.com. We're trying to move it all over. Some of it's redundant, a lot of it's a mess, and we got to get it cleaned up. But that's why I'm having to keep the old site up until enough volunteers and I can finish moving all the content over. It's about 15 years worth of content adding that we're trying to move over manually, because an export-import would just end up being a mess on the new site, and we want everything on the new site to be cleaned up. We also have a whole new section on the new site, so now you won't have to go back to the old site for a lot of the volunteer checklist training. So you have to be logged in, and then you just go to the volunteer section, volunteer staff private section, and there's a whole volunteer training section now, and I'm getting that refined and cleaned up so you can just go through the checklist and work on your diploma and such. So that's coming along. I'm not sure how I like this social network. It's not quite coming out the way I want that we set up at rpgsn.net. It's the different skins. Like, I can try a different skin, and it's completely different how it interacts, but it's not quite what I had in my head of what I wanted to see. I wanted a front page that kind of shows the latest announcements from us for everybody, and then over in the corners and such, go check out the latest, forum discussion and check out your feeds, etc. And it's not quite the layout I want. It's all tweakable. We'll get there eventually, but this is why it's a beta. And rpgsn.net is by invitation only. Right now it's just for exclusively RPG research volunteers. Later we will be adding partners and other organizations to have access, but it won't ever be at any time soon a public site. But it is a social network for role-playing gamers that we can have in-depth, useful discussions, and not the issues that happen over at rpg.net, things like that are not productive. And you can't do research discussions there effectively. Right. Here we can do all of that. It's a friendly, safe environment without being overly PC, and we're able to be productive. And the key thing is, as RPG research has grown so quickly, I'm trying to get everybody to start connecting. Everybody needs to have a photo, so you actually can see each other and recognize each other when we run into each other. Nobody knows anybody except me at this point, and even I don't know everybody by sight. So I'm hoping this internal social network will solve that. Intranet social network. We will see. So that finally launched this week, and it's plugging along. I mean, it's functioning just fine. It's not having any reliability issues. It just has layout issues I'm not quite happy with.
Do I have administrative access to this? Okay.
You just have normal user.
The reason I ask, so normal user gets everybody's logged in reports?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, that's to show who's there, because the idea was for everybody to feel connected to each other. Okay. I can totally tweak that, but part of the point was to everybody to start interacting with each other, because now you can click on their profile when you see their photo and learn about them. Hopefully they'll have a bio, right? Everybody needs to start setting up their bio, and you can start learning about the other volunteers and getting to know each other. Go to their guest book and share a little bit about you. What's your favorite game or something like that. The hope is to get everybody kind of introducing themselves and talking to each other and getting to know each other a little bit better as an organization as we're growing so quickly.
Tic-tac-toe. My favorite game is tic-tac.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to be it for the RPG Talk Show. We'll be back in an hour with the RPG Research RPG Theory discussion. So Thursdays we alternate between RPG Theory discussion and Applied Gaming. And this Thursday it is RPG Theory. We are doing a deep dive into discussions of immersion and flow state, and of course related role-playing games, and assessment tools. And this is useful not just for RPG professionals, in entertainers, paid recreators, entertainers, therapists, and educators. But even if you're just a game master who wants to do a better job GMing, and you want to get an idea of how you're doing with your players, these assessment tools might be useful for you. So tune in about an hour, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here on twitch.tv/RPG Research. And if you haven't donated yet to RPG Research, swing on by rpgresearch.com and click on Donate. Wherever you may be well, happy gaming, and namarie.
Dream well.
I lost my mouse. Mousey.